Hello and welcome to Aksamawian Media Network. I am your host, Ashinafi Tsubhatu, and today we will be interviewing one of the many supporters of Tigray. She voices her concerns often on her social media platforms. She's very active at fighting for justice for Tigray, and we owe her a lot of thanks for spreading awareness about what's going on in Tigray. We have Kasech Rayaweyti. Kasech, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and welcome.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate being on the show.
Great. And I would like to start by just asking you to please introduce yourself, and if you could share with us a little background history about you.
All right. So as you all know, I go by the alias Kasech Rayaweyti. I was born in Australia. I grew up here, but I've had a lot to do with the Tigrayan community for the last 8 years, partly because my children are both from Tigray. So I started my journey about 8 years ago, learning about the history and the culture, and it's just become a passion of mine and something that I really, really feel very strongly to voice my love for. First and foremost, which I've always done since I became part of the community, but now it's about the justice, and now it's about the peace, and now it's about restoring law and order and the rights of the Tigrayan people. So
thank you. And when I see your videos, I noticed that you know so much about the culture and also the history, sometimes even the politics of Tigray and Ethiopia. You speak so highly of Tigray. How did you get to know Tigray? I know you said you have, children who are also from Tigray. Was there anything else that attracted you to Tigray?
I've explained it before. It's as a very spiritual experience when I first went to Ethiopia. So it just was overwhelming when I first traveled. So I first traveled in 2012, and it was just after the wake of Meles Zenawi's death. So I traveled there, and it was a very somber period within the Ethiopian history. But the strength of the people and the pride of the people and the peace that the people shared within like their community, so between Muslim and Christian communities, is not something we really were privy of growing up with in Australia. We didn't have that mix of religions, and then there was 9/11. There was a lot of Islamophobia that was happening in Australia. So when I went to Ethiopia and I saw what was considered in our culture polarization, living together in peace, it struck me. How is this possible? And then I was like, how is this not possible? This is such an amazing experience to be seeing, especially when our media was very, very negative towards that kind of relationship. So that was one experience, but also just traveling around the whole country and seeing the differences within each state and each region, and having family from Tigray and actually being able to live with the people for a few months. Like each time we go, I'm not, in a hotel fancy, just looking out and observing. Like I'm living with the people, and it's become part of me. It's become something that many people don't get the opportunity to have that experience. And when you do have that experience, you can fall in love with the people, the culture, everything very quickly. So that's what really is pushing me, I guess. And that's how I've gotten to know Tigray, by just being there and being alongside everyone and loving them as they loved me, the acceptance and the tolerance and the peace of the people.
And I was so, shocked and surprised when I heard you speaking Tigrinya in your videos. And I think, you understand a little bit. You can speak Tigrinya very well, right? Or
not very well. I wouldn't say very well. I would say but
Great. Could you share another sentence for us in Tigrinya?
Naisabaya Tizarabai Tigrinya. No, Tigrinya Tizarabai. That's how I learn, because my partner, but also like my friends and things, it's easier for me to be able to take in words, but to spit them out, sometimes I get a bit shocked. But come on,
you're doing very well. Great.
The greetings is fine.
Okay,
and outside of the onion is like my favorite answer to everything.
Okay. And your name, Kasech
Rayaweyti. My phone has decided to go off. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. I just wanted to know, how did you get that name, Kasech Rayaweyti? Where did this name come from?
It came from. Sorry, I don't know if my phone's just interrupted our signal. Are you able to hear me still?
It's great. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. The name came from a friend of mine. So I was given the name Berhan, and then a friend of mine said, no, that doesn't suit you. We're going to change it to Kasech. So that was it. A girlfriend of mine gave me the name.
Okay, and then Rayaweyti. Is that
Rayaweyti because my first love was in Raya. Not I was just obsessed with Raya from the day one that I went there. So I've just been obsessed with it ever since. The culture, the music, the people, everything has been very touching to me. So yeah, that's the Rayaweyti part. I love the music, and whenever we have a cultural like celebration or something, I dance to the Raya music the most. It's my favorite. So I just grabbed that.
great? And then so we have some viewers who are wondering, are you standing up for Tigray because of your love for Tigray, or is it because that you believe that what is happening is pretty much wrong? Many people are suffering. They're being raped. They're dying. Could you tell us, what makes you stand up for Tigray so strongly?
It's a combination. It's definitely my love for Tigray, but it's also this is wrong. It doesn't matter where you come from in the world. If you are seeing villages being, massacred and women being raped, and it doesn't matter where you come from. I think everybody has a reason for supporting whoever they support within the world. And I know there's atrocious things that have happened in the past. There are atrocious things in other countries. There are atrocious things that will happen in the future. It's unfortunately the reality of the world. But we can't save everybody. We can't save everything. We can't stand up for every injustice. It's just impossible. I mean, if we could, we would never be sleeping. I already don't sleep as it is. But when it comes to Tigray, like I said, this is my people. I feel like I'm Tigrayweti just as maybe not as much as you because I don't have that privilege of being born there or being born into a Tagaro family. But when you see people that you love that are suffering, there's just nothing that if I stay silent, it was going to eat me alive even more. So like I said, my passion is shared within my own community and within my own people. And it's shared within my family. So everybody knows that this is what I love. I've been reading the history and the politics and following it for so long. And I just felt, well, if this is happening, I have to say something. It's part of my personality as well. Like I always stand up against injustice. If I see it happening, if I see bullying happening, if I see racism happening, I will stand up for it. So it's part of my personality. But like I said, I can't jump on every single cause that's out there. But when it comes to the people that are really, really important to me, it's something I just couldn't stay silent for.
And when you do speak up about the war in Tigray on your social media pages, what kind of feedback do you get? Could you tell us a little bit about the feedback?
Do we want the honest answer or the nice sugar-coated answer?
Anyone you prefer.
I get from the Tagaro people, I would say 95% of it is very positive. There's always going to be 5% that I can't decipher or I can't please everybody. There are people that do attack me from the Tigrayan side, but I understand that they're going through their pain and their suffering as well. So that's the Tigrayan side is fine. Anybody from Amhara background, from Addis Ababa, and now from Eritrea are the things that I see that I get written. I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. I've been called everything you can think of. I'm now getting threatened by the Eritrean sources, like supporters. Not all Eritreans. There are a lot of Eritreans that are very supportive because they understand I'm speaking for their rights too. I'm speaking for their oppression too. I'm speaking to free them from dictatorship, and from this horrible rule and the way they've been treated too. But there are a lot of very vile, disgusting comments that come through, even to my inbox. So I'm definitely not doing this for attention, because if I was doing this for attention, I would have just quit, because the majority of the attention that I get from the opposite side is extremely negative. But I'm not going to let that keep me down and, stop fighting for the people who are actually suffering at this point and, losing their lives and their families.
And we do appreciate everything that you're doing, spreading the word, updating everyone of what's going on. So we do appreciate you. I just want you to know that. And, we do know that there's some Tigrayans, Ethiopians, and even Eritreans who are aware of what's happening in Tigray, the people of Tigray, and they choose to stay silent.
Yes.
Some even support the war crimes by claiming that it's law and order operation. And what would you say to people who think that way?
I would say do a little bit more research on the political history and how it got to this point. Actually follow what it is that was done. It's very easy to follow the media. I guess any media network can say that this is the truth and this is what's being said and this is what they've told us. As like I've just proven, I don't really understand Tigrinya or Amharic, so I've had to go off what I could find, what I could see was happening, and then put the pieces of the puzzle together. So for those people that are supporting this as a law and order mission, I would deeply encourage you to go and look at the other regions as well. Go look at the Oromo side and see what has been happening on their end. Sorry, are you getting any feedback? My sound has just gone funny.
No, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, can the audience hear us clearly? Can we just check in the comment section?
So please comment if you can hear us clearly.
Sorry, the feedback's quite bad and I don't want to ruin the sound. I can't hear you now.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, now I can hear. I'm not sure what was happening. Sorry, guys. I could hear a really bad buzzing, and I didn't want it to interfere. Anyway, so back to your question. I would just encourage people to continue to research. Try to get outside of your bubble of even your own network and look at it from the factual perspective. Look at it from the outsider's perspective, not your own perspective. That's how I've had to get my understanding of what's happening, because I don't understand the language, and I guess I don't get swayed by the propaganda. I've just looked at the logical things. Okay, so in 2018, Abiy comes in, the Prosperity Party is formed, the TPLF leave, and then I look at, okay, how does the Prosperity Party go into each region and just, put themselves there when they haven't been voted? It doesn't make logical sense. So then you go and look at the constitution and say, well, this doesn't really seem to match up. And then we look at the fact that they called an election, the elections were cancelled, and then you have to look at the logic in that. Okay, so but Tigray is entitled to have their own regional elections because, again, the Prosperity Party needs to be voted in by the people. This is not propaganda or me just buying the TPLF kind of rubbish. It was me looking at the logic and going, this doesn't make sense. This is not even legal what's happening right now. And then it's not humane. So that's what I would encourage people to do, that, want to just understand it a little bit more. There is enough resources and there's enough timelines. I mean, Wikipedia even gives you the timelines. You can cross over and go, this doesn't make sense. So that's my only message.
Could you describe to us the Ethiopia you knew once you visited 8 years ago, and the Ethiopia that you're seeing now in the media and what's going on?
The Ethiopia that I visited and the Ethiopia that I see now is completely different. I think the Ethiopia that I had visited was very inclusive of every other culture. I mean, especially in Tigray, whenever you watch the media in Tigray, there's always music clips and things that are played. I think the majority of the music came from the rest of the country to, create a respect and an inclusive environment. I learned, most of the other, like Oromo music or Gakogamo music or, Walaitan music, all because of watching media from when I was staying in Tigray. So for me, Tigray hasn't probably changed. It's been a few years since I've been there. But when it comes to the community, what I'm seeing now and the political sphere, I would say that Ethiopia that I visited is dead. It was held together by the EPRDF in what was some people call a very strict holding and, dictatorship. given that there is 81 different or 82 different ethnic groups within the country, it's a very difficult and very hard balancing act, I would say. But from my perspective, and it's only from my perspective, so this is just how I see things, but I would say that things have changed a lot, and it's no longer the Ethiopia that we saw, and the hate that is coming out, and the dissidents, and the way that people are attacking people just because of their ethnicity, whether you're Tigrayan or whether you're Oromo, whether you're like Benshangul, it doesn't matter. That vile hate is what I would see has destroyed the country. Like, it was in its infancy stage of becoming one united Ethiopia. It's not a country that's been around for a very, very long time. Each region has been around for a very long time historically, but as a united body, it was in its infancy stage, and I feel like it's just fallen over now. It's not. That's it. Again, this is my opinion. That's how I just see it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Ethiopia is known for the many ethnic groups that that have different traditions, culture, history, languages. These ethnic groups were living peacefully under their own regional governments for almost 27 years, you could say. But now there's a full-scale war between Tigray and Amhara militia and federal government. There's also conflict between the Amhara and Benshangul Gumez. There's conflict between Somalia and Afar. And there's conflict between Oromia and federal government, just to name a few. Do you think that these conflicts can get resolved?
I think there's always a place for mediation. There's always a place for conflict resolution and discussion and dialogue. However, as the TPLF have asked for, they need all players to be included in that dialogue. So that includes all locked up political opposition leaders. I think if the government decides to actually play by some kind of international mediation rules or codes, then there is a way for peace and reconciliation to occur. Whether it returns back to the old Ethiopia or not, I think that now needs to come to the vote. I think we've pushed the boundaries too far, that people need to now vote for what they want there in their future. So there is the Article 39, and I think each region has the right to succeed at this point now, because the friendship boundaries have been pushed a little bit too far. But again, that's just my opinion, but I think that there is definitely a place where they can have mediation and they can have discussion and dialogue, but all parties need to be included. So Bakela Gerba and Doha Mohammed, they need to be released, because a debate needs to happen. And debate is a healthy part of a political system, and it's a very healthy part of a democratic system. So if he's trying to really push democracy, then debates of differing opinions need to take place, and mediation, and perhaps even foreign mediation mediators, debate mediators, so non-partisan or non-one-sided, needs to come in and actually negotiate between the parties to come to a solution. But I don't think right now, from what we see, without having dialogue and discussion, it doesn't seem to be that this is going to, that it can go back to what it was.
Do you have any messages for the people of Tigray or for the international community?
The people of Tigray, I would just say, continue to focus on the future, what it is that is going to need to happen to rebuild. Unfortunately, Isaiah's got his wish, and he's pulled us all the way back down to the 1990s, destroying and looting factories, hospitals, universities. There's a lot of work that needs to be redone. For the people of Tigray, I would say stay strong. You've built up once. It's unfair that you have to rebuild again a second time, but it's possible. It's possible. There's frameworks. There's new technologies out there now. The benefit of having to rebuild in 2021 as opposed to 1991 is we can rebuild in a green way. We can rebuild in a healthy way. So we can learn from the mistakes of the West. I just saw, for example, Dr. Tedros has come out and is against prepackaged food, or not really prepackaged food, but processed food. These are really great opportunities that we have to learn from the West. So the last 30, 40 years of Western industrialization has changed our society. It's changed the way we eat. It's changed the way we group together as a community. So to rebuild, the future is very bright because we can learn from the mistakes that have happened in the Western world and create a country above, like, catapult light years ahead, because we're all in the West trying to catch up on our green energy. There is no infrastructure we can build, green infrastructure, to save our planet. There is so much opportunity in this regrowth. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not going to twist it as there was one of Abby's members who twisted it and said, oh, this is a great opportunity. It's not a great opportunity. It shouldn't have to happen, but it has happened. So the reality is that we can learn. The rest of the world, I would just like to say, please turn your eyes onto Tigray. See what's happened and try to empathize with the people. How would you feel if this has happened to you? All of a sudden, your own government has turned on you. I don't think that we want to play the role of victimhood and that, poor us, but we have to stay strong in ourselves as Tagaru, but the rest of the world needs to see that what they've done is it's abhorrent. It's a complete contradiction of democracy and the legal framework that had been in place. It was a destruction of the Constitution, and if you can't stand for humanity, at least stand for the Constitution and at least stand for the legal rights of people. I would hope that the Western world starts to stand for humanity, pushes to open those humanitarian corridors so that our people can eat, so that the aid that's required is delivered. But there's just so many factors to this war that to be able to support Abiy and what he's doing is it's a lack of logic in my eyes. So I would ask and implore the Western world to really use their logic, use like I've said, to the Tigrayan people that don't know what's happening, research and see what's actually happened and the events that have led to it, and you'll see that the Tigrayan people are on the side of truth and justice, that this is a war against them and their rights.
Thank you, Kasech. Do you have any last comments before we go, or anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I just guess I would just like to say, again, stay strong, everybody, stay united, and focus on rebuilding, focus on making connections with aid organizations that will be able to help rebuild. There are many organizations that do help with infrastructure building and, skill set enhancement. So look outside the bubble of what we're doing and see where we can partner up with, and make some good links. So when it all reopens, the TDA want to make a lot of links with the outside world. So, start creating those networks and those connections with people so that we can help our people rebuild.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you coming and spending your time with us. And
thank you so much for having me. And I'll hopefully meet you on the other side.
Yes.
Once this is all done. Thank you.